You know, getting your research published in a top journal can feel, well, impossible. It's kind of like trying to get a table at the world's most exclusive restaurant. But what if you had the playbook? What if you knew exactly what the person at the door, in this case the editor, is looking for? Well, in this explainer, we're going to decode the guidance from senior editors themselves to show you exactly how to build an undeniable case for your scholarship.
So let's just start with a quick dose of reality. What's this number all about? That's the rejection rate at some of the top human resource management journals, over 90%. And get this, that number is only going up. With the pressure to publish getting more and more intense and submissions just flooding in from all over the globe, editors are completely overwhelmed. The stakes have never been higher, which means every single detail in your manuscript, from the title to that very last sentence, absolutely positively counts.
So yeah, that is the million-dollar question, isn't it? How do you break into that elite 10%? Well, it turns out it's not just about having great research, it's about building a great case. It's about being a master storyteller and really a brilliant lawyer for your own ideas.
To do that, we're going to frame this entire process like you're standing in a courtroom. Think of your manuscript as the legal brief, and the journal editors, well, they're the jury you have to convince beyond a reasonable doubt. We'll walk through your opening statement, how to craft a powerful hook, present your core evidence, provide solid corroboration, and then finally deliver a closing argument they'll never forget.
Okay, first up, the opening statement. This is all about getting your head around the modern publishing challenge. I mean, the sheer volume of manuscripts flooding into journal inboxes is just staggering. This means the expectations for what really counts as a novel, significant contribution are higher than they've ever been. Editors have to be incredibly efficient gatekeepers.
And because of that flood of submissions, a lot of papers don't even make it to peer review. They get what's called a desk rejection, for the exact reasons you see right here. The editor reads the abstract, maybe the introduction, and immediately spots a fatal flaw. Maybe the idea just isn't new or important enough, or the theoretical foundation is kind of shaky. Or, hey, maybe it's just not a good fit for that journal's particular conversation. Editors see these issues over and over. Your first job is to build a case that is so airtight it sails right past these common roadblocks.
Which brings us right to the hook. Your abstract and your introduction, they're your first and maybe your only chance to really grab an editor's full attention. In a sea of submissions, these opening sections are basically a trial by fire. A weak opening means your case gets dismissed before it's even heard, and it doesn't matter how brilliant the rest of the paper is.
I absolutely love this analogy. Think about your introduction like you're joining a really interesting conversation at a party. You wouldn't just barge in and start shouting your opinion, right? Of course not. You'd listen for a bit, you'd get the vibe of the room, you'd show you understand what people are talking about, the current state of the research, and then, at just the right moment, you'd chime in with your compelling new idea. It's about adding value, not just noise. It's about showing respect for the conversation that came before you.
And if you want a powerful hook, here's a fantastic formula. Your abstract isn't just a summary. It's a pitch. It is the movie trailer for your paper. This 5-sentence structure forces you to be incredibly efficient. First, you set the scene. Second, you introduce a problem. Third, you explain why that problem even matters. Fourth, you state your solution. And fifth, you declare the impact. Boom. The entire case for your paper right there in one elegant, powerful paragraph.
Okay, now let's break down the introduction itself into 4 critical paragraphs. The very first one is where you walk into that party and you join the conversation. You do this by engaging directly with 2 or 3 of the key scholars in the field. And this isn't just about citing sources. This is a strategic move. It signals to the editor, hey, I've done my homework, I know who the heavyweights are, and I understand the dialogue I'm about to enter.
Then comes the pivot. Your second paragraph should start with a really strong transition, something like, however, or despite this, to signal a shift in direction. This is where you respectfully challenge the status quo. You introduce that nuance, that complication, the problem, or the gap that pretty much everyone else has overlooked. This is where you start to build the case for why your research isn't just interesting, but absolutely necessary.
Paragraph 3 is all about clarity and building trust. Right after you've identified the problem, you state your paper's objective with unmistakable precision. The purpose of this study is to investigate zero ambiguity. That sentence is like a contract you're making with the reader. It tells them exactly what you promised to deliver, setting clear expectations and giving them a roadmap for the argument that's about to unfold. And finally, paragraph 4 delivers the payoff. You briefly lay out your study's context, your core findings, and your primary contribution. You're not giving away the whole story, of course, but you are proving that your paper has a destination worth traveling to.
This makes sure the editor gets the essence of your research and its importance right from the very beginning. With that, your hook is set, and now the jury is leaning in, ready to hear your case.
So, with the jury hooked, it is time to present your core evidence. This is the theory section of your paper, and, make no mistake, this is where most cases are won or lost. In fact, failing to make a convincing theoretical contribution is the single most common reason for rejection after the introduction. It's the logical foundation of your entire argument.
And this brings us to a really crucial distinction. A literature review, you see, it proves you know the conversation. But a real theory section is where you change that conversation. You're not just mapping the existing territory, you are drawing a brand new map. You're using your findings to reinterpret the why and how behind a phenomenon, connecting dots nobody else has connected, and forcing the reader to see old, familiar ideas in a completely new and exciting light.
This quote just perfectly captures the magic and the challenge of it all. A genuine theoretical contribution is more than just adding one more little brick to the wall. It's about redesigning the architecture. It creates that aha moment where the reader just leans back and thinks, wow, I've read 100 papers on this topic, but I've never seen it that way before. That feeling, that is what editors are constantly searching for.
All right, next up, you have to corroborate your claims. If the theory section is your argument, then the methods and results sections are where you prove your case with cold, hard facts. You need to show the jury not just what you found, but precisely how you found it, leaving zero room for doubt about the credibility and the rigor of your work.
And demonstrating that rigor is especially critical now with the rise of online data collection. To make your methodology totally bulletproof when you're using platforms like MTurk or Prolific, you have to be proactive about the risks. That means screening for bots and fraudulent participants with IP analysis, using clever attention checks to filter out rushed or biased responses, and making sure your ethical process is transparent and fair. Your evidence is only ever as strong as your methods.
And how you present this proof also depends on your approach. For quantitative studies, the story is told through statistical inference. It's objective, it's clean, and it's all about replicatability. For qualitative studies, the story is a rich narrative, built through interpretation, themes, and powerful quotes that really bring the data to life. But in both cases, the guiding principle is exactly the same: absolute transparency. Show your work so anyone can follow your steps and trust your conclusions.
And here we are. We've arrived at the final crucial phase, the closing argument. This is your discussion section. You've presented the theory, you've backed it up with evidence. Now you have one last chance to stand before that jury, connect all the dots, and convince them of your paper's ultimate value and lasting impact.
This quote just nails it. So many papers lose steam right at the end, but this is where you win the case. This is your moment to passionately and persuasively connect your findings back to that big conversation you joined in the introduction and powerfully answer that nagging "so what" question one final, definitive time. And it really helps to be specific about what kind of contribution you're making. Are you developing a brand new theory? Are you just refining an existing concept? Or maybe you're offering a new methodology that's going to change how research is done. As you can see from this list, there are a lot of ways to frame your paper's value. The key is to be explicit. Tell the editor exactly what box you're checking.
And please, here is a critical warning. It is not enough to just state, this paper contributes to theory. I mean, that's like a lawyer saying my client is innocent, and then just sitting down. You have to explain how. Does your work extend a theory? Does it challenge a core assumption? Does it elaborate on a theory's boundaries? Your closing argument has to be detailed, specific, and persuasive, not just some vague claim.
So, as we wrap this all up, this is the one question that should be echoing in your mind through this whole process. From the first sentence of your abstract to the very last line of your discussion, your entire manuscript has to be a sustained, compelling answer to this single question. So what? Build your case with care, present your evidence with clarity, and deliver a closing argument that leaves no doubt. If you can do that, you've done more than just write a paper. You've made a contribution that really, truly matters.